We might have just witnessed the game of the year for this Syracuse men's basketball team. The Orange were in complete control against Wake, up by as many as 16 in the second half. And then, surprise, surprise, SU got into foul trouble once again. That forced Jim Boeheim to put Bryson Goodine in the game. The freshman was the eventual hero. There's a lot to break down from this crazy game, so let's get right to it. This is Orange Press Pass. Hello and welcome into Orange Press Pass. I'm Will Scott, joined by Darron, Wallace, and Patrick Gunn. I just felt like we went to Six Flags and rode a roller coaster.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
That was crazy,
that was
with the game we just witnessed. So why don't we get right to the highlights from this crazy game? Syracuse hosting Wake Forest. Elijah Hughes, the ACC leading scorer, didn't have a great performance against Duke last week. Neither did Buddy Boeheim, but he was on the board here early, Darron.
Yeah, he capped off. He was a big part of their 14-0 run in that first half. After that first media timeout, they were down 4-2. He hits a couple threes and got him going offensively.
He was 4 of 7 from beyond the arc in the first half. Syracuse extended their lead to 11, but then Jacob Neath hits the 3 for Wake. Hughes up 8 after that triple, and then 3 minutes later, Torrey Johnson connects on a mid-range jumper. Patrick, Wake Forest kept themselves in this game.
Yeah, I mean, early in the game, they started 1 from 11 shooting, but then their shots started to fall. They started taking better shots, and they started going inside.
On the other end, Quincy Guerrier finishes, and then 90 seconds left in the first half. Elijah Hughes threw a block party. I don't know how we didn't catch the invite to that one, fellas. Second half action now. Battle for the ball. Buddy Boeheim involved, and then Adrian White makes a 3. That stops the bleeding.
Oh,
how about that finish?
Wow.
Wake Forest, a slow start to the second half, but they kept themselves in this game, did not let Syracuse pull away. And really, this was a back-and-forth battle after Syracuse got in foul trouble, Darron.
Absolutely. I mean, once Syracuse got in foul trouble, it looked like, who they turned to. Did they turn to Jesse Edwards? Did they turn to Bryson Goodine? But they didn't have many answers, and unfortunately, it's a situation they put themselves in.
Wake Forest would increase their lead to 4 points. They were down by 16. But the Orange wouldn't go away playing that small ball Houston Rockets lineup. Buddy Boeheim finishes on the other end. Wake Forest, though, was knocking down some threes, Patrick, in the second half.
Yeah, they looked really good from behind the arc, but it looks better. This play, Goodine, take it and hit it, Bella.
The game winner from the unlikely freshman hero, half-court heave from Wake Forest, no good. It was the Orange that went on to win 75-73, a big ACC win. They improved to 7-5 in conference play. Really, Buddy Boeheim, the story here, 23 points, he led the way, Darron.
As usual, I mean, it's been the Buddy Boeheim and Elijah Hughes show basically all season, especially during their 5-game win streak earlier this year. And I expect there to be more of that as the season continues for this Orange team.
Yeah, still more struggles down the ball. You see Olivier Sarr, 9 rebounds and 15 points, most of those coming in the second half. They got to play a little bit better down low if they want to keep winning these games.
And we will be joined by Justin Pora now, who is at the Dome. He was at this entire game, reported on the game for CitrusTV. Justin, thanks for joining us. And I want to get right to it about the officiating. Some questionable calls. Syracuse fans not too happy, I would say, with some of those calls. What did you see based on what you saw? How do you think the officiating was?
Guys, isn't it crazy how just 2 games ago, Jesse Edwards had to come in when Barama Sidibe and Marek Dolezaj fouled out, and he couldn't hold his own at all. He was letting guys inches, 5 to 6 inches shorter than him, get into the paint with ease. Well, that was certainly corrected. He had a big steal at the end of the game, and then also had that tip pass, obviously, to Bryson Goodine that won the game for the Orange. It was a remarkable effort by those 2 freshmen. I don't know if I would go as far as to say that they deserve these consistent minutes, this playing time where Coach Boeheim could rely on them game in and game out. But for this situation, they definitely stepped up when he needed them to the most.
Look, another game where Syracuse is, as usual, in foul trouble. So what can you say about the depth of this SU team? Quincy Guerrier fouls out, Marek Dolezaj fouls out, Barama Sidibe fouls out. Moving forward, can SU rely on their younger players moving forward?
Yeah, the number one thing really has to be the shooting. In that first half, the Orange went 6 of 15 from beyond the arc. In the second half, they were just a very poor 1 of 6. Coach Boeheim even said post-game that was the biggest issue for that team. They weren't getting good looks from beyond the arc. They were forcing some things, and then they just weren't getting shots to fall. But they were getting offensive production otherwise, of course, in the paint. The defense definitely stepped up in that final 5 minutes when Gunn had to come in on the floor. Jesse Edwards, again, doing a great job anchoring that 2-3 zone. But the shooting was just such a big problem, and that's what allowed Syracuse to blow what was an 18-point lead in that second half and allow the Demon Deacons to really crawl back in.
And Justin, you just stole the words right out of my mouth. This team had an 18-point lead at one point in the second half, and obviously poor shooting was a part of it, but what changed from the first half to the second half for the Orange?
I mean, if you're asking me from where I was sitting, the officiating looked pretty soft. I mean, Coach Boeheim was certainly not happy about the call where that resulted in Marek Dolezaj getting that technical foul when he pointed to the board. I mean, he wasn't happy with his team at all for committing some of these fouls, but the officiating definitely did not help the way that game was being called. It was definitely going both ways, though. Syracuse got a lot of their points from the charity stripe in that first half that allowed them to get out to such a big lead. Wake Forest themselves had Olivier Sarr foul out in that second half, too. He was their leading scorer and rebounder at the time. So it really did go both ways in terms of being soft in officiating, but Syracuse definitely suffered the worst of it.
Justin, thanks for joining us, and great job on the coverage tonight. When we come back, we will tell you what Jim Boeheim had to say about a thrilling win in the Dome tonight. Stay with us on Orange Press Pass.
Dad, they took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Syracuse basketball is 14-9. If I told you that was possible over Thanksgiving break, you would have thought I was crazy. Yet here we are on February 8th, and that statement is undeniably true. A lot of the team's success is obviously due to their play on the court, but let's pay our respect to that guy right there. Head coach Jim Boeheim said this team would take time, and they have. It took some tough losses, some embarrassment, and now the Orange sit at 5th place in the ACC. Coach Boeheim may not have all the talent in the world this season, but still, he's found a way to coach this very young team to a solid, respectable season. And even better, a possible bid to the NCAA tournament in March. And after this game, Coach Boeheim said, even though they were ahead in the second half and they may have blown that lead, it's important to focus on the little things moving forward.
You know, we're just not doing the things we have to do to be successful. We get up 12, 14, 16, and we make silly mistakes. We commit fouls we can't commit. This game should have been safe. I'm trying to teach him. He's just not getting there, and it's hurting our team. Barama's committing fouls that we can't have him commit. He's going to commit some, but he can't commit the foolish ones. Marek is still picking up 2 fouls every game that, you know, by this stage of the year, we should have learned. You can't do that. And for us to win this game without those three guys in there, down, and we weren't up, we were down, is amazing to me. This is the first game we missed key foul shots. We missed about 6 potential points, 2 front ends, and then a couple more. And yet, we were able to overcome that, and that's what you have to do in these games. They really played defense at the end. I mean, Jesse, it's fitting that we win the game on Jesse getting the ball to Bryson, and Bryson gets it in the basket. That was a heck of a play.
I think Darron said it best. In Boeheim, we trust. And what a job the 44-year head coach has done at SU. Welcome back into Orange Press Pass. Will Scott alongside Darron Wallace and Patrick Gunn. Guys, your takeaways from those post-game comments. Obviously, Boeheim feels like there needs a lot to be improved on going forward.
Well, I think he kind of said it all for me. This team has to focus on the little things. You can't blow 18-point leads. You can't blow any kind of lead, especially when you're in the ACC. Yes, they sit in 5th place, but it's going to be a tough road down the stretch. They got NC State coming up. They've got Florida State, Louisville, UNC comes to the Dome at the end of February. There's a lot of tough games coming here down the stretch, and if they want to find themselves playing during March Madness, they're going to have to harp on the little things, and their young guys are definitely going to have to step up.
And yes, you got to make sure, obviously, every game in the ACC from this point out is going to be a difficult one. But a win's a win. They got a huge victory today to just being able to pull this one out. Imagine if they had lost, it would be easy to say that they could have lost this game. But they were able to pull this one out and get another important victory that's going to help their rankings going down the stretch.
And what makes this win even more impressive is Syracuse got into foul trouble and was still able to finish. I feel like we talk about it after every game. The foul trouble for Syracuse, especially with the big guys. Darron, this cannot become a trend for Syracuse down the stretch if they want to make a run at the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, you can't rely on Jesse Edwards giving you big-time minutes down the stretch. Quincy Guerrier, while he did play arguably his best game of the season, 13 points, 3 rebounds, 3 for 4 from the field, but he only played 15 minutes and he got 5 fouls. That's just unacceptable. You can't play just 15 minutes. That's not even a full half of college basketball and get 5 fouls. He's committing silly fouls that he shouldn't get, and he doesn't need to worry about those. He had one where he had a silly foul on a rebound. Moving forward, he's got to eliminate those things if he wants to continue to do good things for this Orange basketball team.
Yeah, it's hard to make good plays when you're on the bench to getting fouls. And you mentioned Gary, another foul in transition. He was going toward the bucket. He was open, going to the rim, and he just took a stupid charge. You got to be more careful there because we're about to talk about they don't have the depth to make those kind of fouls.
And you mentioned the depth, and that is a big concern for Syracuse moving forward. Darron, are you concerned about the depth? I mean, we're always used to these 7-8 man rotations with Syracuse, but with the foul trouble, that makes the depth situation even more problematic.
Well, Jim Boeheim's not known for going very deep into his bench. He's always been, like Will said, 7 or 8 guys in his rotation. But this year more than ever, they're a young team. They don't even have 7 or 8 guys. They're really not much deeper than their starting 5. So going into the end of this stretch here in ACC play, who's going to take that next step? Is it going to be Jesse Edwards? Is it going to be Bryson Gunn? Is it going to be Quincy Guerrier? And especially after a game like tonight, you have to build on it. There's going to be a lot of tough games coming up, and you can't sit on this one. You have to keep improving if you're one of the younger guys on this team, because moving forward, the Orange will count on them as the season progresses.
Yeah, this reminds me a couple years ago when they were in the tournament and they had to start a walk-on in the NCAA tournament game. Not a good look what you want for your program, but this brings the question, are they going to start playing smaller lineups to start getting, you mentioned the Houston Rockets.
Right.
Are they going to have to start doing a smaller lineup, bring Howard Washington and maybe Bryson Gunn in the game?
It worked tonight, the last couple minutes.
It beat the Lakers too.
It did beat the Lakers, but I don't know if that's something you can do for long-term success, especially if you want to consider lead rebound.
Jesse Edwards, it's very, very promising. He looked much better tonight. I mean, he could have looked much worse against Clemson. He stepped up and got the job done tonight. Well, we'll see what Jesse Edwards had to say about his performance. We come back on Orange Press Pass. We'll bring you player sound.
This is the story of a boy who didn't talk for a long time. The boy liked things to always be the same. Any changes would scare and upset him. The unknown was an unfriendly place. The boy was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. He He wasn't trying to be mean, it just made him feel uncomfortable. Sometimes he would flap his arms again and again.
One day, I found out I had something called autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I found my voice and learned all the ways I could live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Leaving hot coals improperly extinguished can cause a wildfire.
Hey guys, it's Smokey!
It looks as if Smokey is going to use the drown, stir, drown, and feel technique. After the first drown, a good start. Next, another drink. And finally, a close feel.
Is it cool? Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Smokey, catch! Oh, my bad, Smokey.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Hard. Jesse really, set him up with the tip, and he's in the right spot. Tough finish, and really happy for him. Those two guys have been working hard for us, so I'm just really happy to see that pay off for them. It was fun. I mean, I played the forward maybe once or twice in practice since I've been here, and to switch it up like that was kind of cool, just to see how it is and try to help out as much as I can, because that's what we had to do, make that adjustment. And Jesse did a great job inside getting deflections, and we were able to string some stops and make it tough for them.
I think they were both very similar, because it was like late game situation off the bench, close game again, and I was just fighting for. I had it in my head a little bit, like I didn't want the same thing to happen again ever, but and yeah, that's maybe a reason, like I was fighting for everything, and yeah, I'm glad it didn't happen again like it did.
Guys, I'm becoming a big Jesse Edwards fan. I mean, how can you not like that guy?
Nice guy.
Classy guy.
He deserves it after
He was
tonight.
put in
He
a
is.
tough situation 2 weeks ago against Clemson. Didn't perform well. Another tough situation tonight. He steps up and gets the job done for the Orange. Welcome back into Orange Press Pass. I'm Will Scott. He's Darron Wallace. He's Patrick Gunn. We're going to play a little game called What's Going On. Darron, I always start with you. What's going on with Syracuse's decision-making? Some questionable shot attempts in the second half.
What's going on is they're just displaying their youth. They're a very young team. We all knew this coming into the season. They would be a very young team. And it's showing. They're not being smart on defense. They're committing silly fouls. Coach Bam said it himself. Mark is picking up 2 early fouls almost every single game, it seems. Jesse Edwards can't seem to keep himself out of trouble. Quincy Guerrier, 5 fouls in 15 minutes. I can't tell you what's going on, and I don't think they can either, but it's not good.
Yeah, I can try to tell you what's going on with this team. But really, the big difference here is that, look at that foul right there, my buddy. You don't need to take that foul there. That's just use. And Joe Girard in particular, his shot selection is really poor. You can see it. His feet are flying all over the place when he is taking a shot. And I think you said the right word: inexperience, youth. This team has got a lot of growing pains, and they're still showing those growing pains. From the silly fouls to the horrible shot selection, that'll come over time. And they just need to get some growing.
The Joe Girard breakout game is coming. I've said it the past 12 games, but it's going to come sooner rather than later. I want to talk about another Orange sharpshooter, though, and that's Buddy Boeheim. He had a great first half, 4 of 7 from three-point range. Second half, he only made 1 3-pointer. Darron, what's going on with Buddy Bullseye?
Well, what's going on is they're finding him early. Syracuse is looking for him to get his shots going early. But in the second half, for some reason, they seem to go away from that. I don't know why they're shying away from giving a guy who's one of the best three-point shooters in the entire ACC and the country the ball. I don't understand why in the first half he can rack up 18, 20 points. And then in the second half, he seems to go quiet. It's not that he's going cold or he can't make shots. They just don't seem to be looking for him.
My thought process with Buddy is that he's kind of an on and off shooter. He's a guy who's going to get a ton of shots, a bulk shooter, kind of a little bit like James Harden, not quite as much of a bulk guy, but he's going to get a lot of shots and he's going to miss some of them sometimes. And when he makes them, they're great shots. But he's not a guy who's going to create his own look. He's a jumper, three-point guy, still needs to drive some more. I think if he could drive the basket more times, he'd be a really good player, but I think he just needs to get some more consistency if he's going to. What do you expect? He's a shooter.
2 Houston Rockets references from Patrick Gunn in this show. I love it.
It's a great day for you.
You're getting points.
Yes.
I want to talk about, to close things out here, Syracuse's rebounding. They actually look good rebounding in the first half. In the second half, not so much. They got absolutely dominated on the glass in the second half. Main reason Wake was able to get back in this game, Darron, what's going on? Tell me.
Listen, they had 11 second chance points in the first half. In the second half, they only had 2. That means you're not rebounding. If you're going to dominate a team on the inside, you need to be able to dominate both the defensive and the offensive glass. And Will said it. They did do a good job on the boards in the first half, but in the second half, a large part of the reason why Wake Forest was able to get back into the game after being down by 18 points is because they weren't able to dominate both the defensive and the offensive side of the glass. They need to be able to be better on both sides as they finish out ACC play.
I think you mentioned it with that guy, Olivier Sarr. 10 points in the second half, 9 rebounds total. He really started to dominate there. And the big thing is size with Syracuse is rebounding. Like their heaviest player is 220 pounds, Quincy Guerrier. It's harder for players like a Barama Sidibe or a Mark Dolezaj to be able to get rebounds and box people out when they're like 50 pounds lighter than some of these players. Yeah, there are some big boys, all right. And they just can't compete with that. So it's going to be tough. They need to really make sure they're focused on boxing out and making good footwork and making smart plays inside if they want to be able to get those rebounds.
Absolutely agree, and that could be a big key to winning on Tuesday against NC State. Dare I say, the biggest game of the season for Syracuse. We'll break down that matchup on Tuesday night in the Dome, and then Darron and Patrick will give their final thoughts when we return on Orange Press Pass.
All right, Monroe, you ready? Monroe. Here we go, the butterfly. Ready? Ooh.
Welcome back into Orange Press Pass. Will Scott alongside Darron Wallace and Patrick Gunn recapping Syracuse's win over Wake Forest, a 75-73 final score, of course, ending on the Bryson Goodine game winner. I guarantee you that's the best game that we saw today in the ACC, other than Duke, North Carolina. I had to throw the Duke, North Carolina game in there. So let's take a look around what else happened in the ACC. I don't know, North Carolina choking one-on-one is the class that they taught, the fake class that they taught, of course. They only do fake classes in North Carolina. Miami and Florida State, a big win for Florida State. Florida State's maybe one of the more underrated teams in the country. Virginia falls to Louisville. And then Boston College, an upset win at Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, that win for the Orange doesn't look as good now, Patrick.
Virginia Tech is not making the NCAA tournament. This 2 losses to Boston College. You can't have those kind of losses on your resume. They're not doing it.
What stands out to you from what you saw today in the ACC, Darron?
I think it has to be Virginia. I mean, for one, not only the way that they've fallen off this season, it's the fact that they can't seem to score or beat anybody. I mean, does this even make Syracuse's win over them a few weeks ago even look good anymore? And then obviously you kind of mentioned it. What a choke job by UNC today. That's just, you can't have
They were up 10 with about 3 minutes left in regulation, then up 5 with 20 seconds left in overtime. They managed to blow both leads.
But you have to give credit to Trey Jones. That was a perfect miss.
That was a very good shot.
Perfect miss.
I don't know how Duke just keeps getting this lucky. It's just beyond me. Darron, you're kind of a Duke guy. Gets on my nerves a little bit sometimes.
Hey,
but
let me be proud of my Duke.
Credit to
right?
Duke. They're finding ways to win. Got to give them credit. As we will take a look now at the ACC standings. Syracuse right up there near the top. Can you believe that, gentlemen?
No, if you again, like I said, if you told me that over winter break Syracuse would be in the top half of the ACC standings, I would have said you're crazy. But lo and behold, here we are in February. It's really, it can go any way. I'm surprised to see Syracuse near the top.
Yeah, I mean, after you go Louisville, Duke, Florida State, and then there's a pretty big drop-off. Virginia and Syracuse in the same level. Right below them, their next opponent, NC State. They're playing Pitt a couple of weeks. It's going to be a fun couple of weeks in the ACC.
Darren, give me a number. How many ACC teams get an NCAA tournament?
You're putting me on the spot. I'm going to say 5. I think if Syracuse or Virginia,
one of those 5?
Yes,
Wow.
I think if Syracuse or UVA finishes in that 5 spot, I think they have a good case to make it back. The reigning defending national champions, Syracuse, who's played well down the stretch here in ACC play, and the rest of them. I mean, obviously Louisville, Duke, and Florida State, 3 of the top 10 teams in the country. I think 5 of them get in.
I think the top 3 pretty solidified. It's going to be a battle for that 4 spot, and right now Syracuse is right there with Virginia, Patrick.
I think that it's going to be 4 teams. I just don't see Syracuse getting enough wins to get in. I feel like there could be a bad loss coming. NC State, I don't really think it's a great chance. Syracuse needs to beat them. I think UVA is going to find a way to sneak in. It wouldn't surprise me to pick up another win. That Florida State win they got on the road was pretty impressive. So I think that I think it was at home, but I think it was a pretty impressive win, and I think they get it.
I think UVA gets in easily, but that 5th spot is probably going to come down to the wire. And who knows, Syracuse could be in that conversation, but they need a win on Tuesday against NC State. That game at home for Syracuse. When you look at these two teams on paper, incredibly close on paper, Darren.
Well, you're calling it the biggest game of the season. And
it is.
I can't say that I really disagree with you that much. I think they do have bigger games kind of towards the end of February. But this is a must-win game for the Orange. Every game moving forward is a must-win, and I think they have to take care of business in the Dome, in their place, where they're known for playing well.
You just said it. These teams that they're close to in the ACC, they have to beat these teams. NC State is a decent team. They're close to the bubble, kind of a little bit off. They've kind of been inconsistent. That loss to North Carolina recently really wasn't a good one for them. But this is still incredibly important game to get a victory, especially because it's at home. You don't want to lose many of these home ACC games like they lost earlier in the season to Virginia Tech and Notre Dame that don't look very good right now on their resume.
And this is why I think it's the biggest game of the year for Syracuse, because Darren's right. 5 ACC teams are probably going to get in. You got the top 4, in my mind, pretty solidified, at least the top 3. This 5th spot for the NCAA tournament could come down between Syracuse and NC State. This game's at home. You have some momentum going in. NC State is 15-8, 6-6 in the ACC, a solid record. You have to win this basketball game if you're Syracuse. You cannot drop this basketball game. Not Duke, not North Carolina, not Louisville. This is the biggest game of the season for Syracuse, gentlemen. And let's see if they can get the job done. Darren, just a quick prediction. Do they win?
I think they do. I think the young guys especially, they're going to build on today's win. I think this was a huge momentum booster for the Orange team, and especially the younger guys. It's going to be a real feel-good moment for Bryson Goodine moving forward, Jesse Edwards moving forward, and Quincy Guerrier.
No, I don't think they get it done. I think that this performance like today, they wouldn't beat any other team except for maybe Boston College. I don't think they do it.
Darren, your final thoughts.
I'm gonna rehash it. The younger guys have to step up. You can't just sit on this game. Obviously, it's very rewarding to win on a game winner, especially Bryson Goodine, the type of season he's had. This is a feel-good game for him and a feel-good moment tonight. But they have to get better. They can't allow this one to they can't sit on this one. They have to keep improving as the end of the season plays out.
I'm going to quote one of my favorite shows. Don't stop dancing till the curtain falls. A win's a win. They got the job done. The Syracuse teams, they don't have the size to win these kind of games by a wide margin. They're going to have to keep doing this, just keep getting out, keep making shots, and keep grinding out. That's their formula.
So Darren thinks that you're wrong, Patrick, and Syracuse does make the NCAA tournament. You are thinking more NIT, huh?
Well, he is wrong. I'm sorry.
Oh, wow.
We'll have to wait and see. It should be a fun end to the season for Syracuse, and once again, they're going to be in that bubble conversation. No surprise. Thanks for tuning in to Orange Press Pass. Will Scott alongside Darron Wallace and Patrick Gunn. We had a blast, and we'll see you on Tuesday night for Syracuse against NC State.